Pamela Wolf here, aka MS Destiny 14 on GitHub and the forums, and I am the GUI girl of Babylon.js. I love everything GUI, everything to do with GUI. Some of you have known that we've been working on this project for quite a little bit of time, but now I'm finally here to showcase it today. The Babylon.js GUI Editor. This has been a huge project in the making. A lot of people have been working on this, but I'm really excited to showcase it with you guys today, and let's go over a basic overview of it. So here we go. You can find it at GUI.babylonjs.com, and this is the editor. So a little history on the editor. We wanted a way to make GUI simple and make it simple for people to use, people who were inexperienced in code, people who were coders and just didn't want to type code. So how can we make a system that allows us to type less code? And the solution is the GUI editor. So with the editor, we can create our layouts, upload it to the snippet server or to a local JSON that we can store somewhere, and then use it in our playground and demo projects and all we want just by parsing it later on, and then hooking it up to whatever functionality we want to create. So GUI made simple, that's kind of the tagline for this editor, and I hope that's what this is going to do for you today. So let's get to it. So here we have our different features for the GUI editor. We have select, move, pan, zoom, fit to window, that's going to fit it right on the screen, and the toggle out guides, which is going to turn on all of our debug lines. So that's our top bar right here of all of our functionalities we can do. And then let's head over to the properties panel. So these are going to be all of the properties that we have for not just the editor itself, but for our GUI controls later down the line. So we have some things we can change the background if we want. We have responsive mode. Now, responsive mode is going to be really important if we want to have a full-sized GUI that we want to be able to use on multiple different screen sizes. So the web, phone, etc. We have different options. Or if we want, we can come up with a custom size with a non-responsive mode. But what I like about responsive mode is that all of our values are going to be defaulted to percentage, which is really important for later down the line when we want to change screen sizes. Here we also have the options to load GUIs to the snippet server or local if we want, as well as save them as well. And then we have our GUI controls. So here we can see all of our GUI controls. We have everything from rectangles to grids to buttons to text. Any control that we have in Babylon, we can create in this editor, and we can modify every property for it. So let's just start out with a button, for example. So here we have a text button. Boom, right on the screen with one button press. Now if I hit the move up here, or if I shortcut key with M, we can now move it. Oh, I deselected it. And now I can move it around the screen like so. And then I can hit the S key to select back. And then I can click on and off if I want. So let's just move it right to the center of our screen. And now we can modify our values however we'd like. We can change the size, we can rotate it, we can change the color if we want. I'm just going to change this to blue because blue is my favorite color. So here we go. We have a blue button that says click me. Really exciting. If I want, I can see our layers panel. Now this is going to be the panel that has all of our stuff very similar to the Scene Explorer you'll see in the inspector. So we have here inside of our button, we have our text block. So this is going to be for the button text. There's the name up there, so the button text. I'm going to just change it to something more memorable. So button text, much more memorable. And I can change it to say like hello world or whatever I want it to say. And I can change all those properties here too. Now something really cool about the layers over here is that this is where we're going to handle all of our parenting and unparenting, as well as our Z orders. So if I create an image right here, now I see the image is over my button, I can simply click on the button and drag it like so. And now look, ta-da! But that's not all I can do. So let's see our image here. Now let's say I want it to be now inside the button, because any container, so a rectangle, a button, an ellipse, a grid, all of those are containers. So if we want to go and put our image inside of the button, we can just hold it down like this and see how it turns white. That means we can parent, like so. So boom, now it's inside of the button. And now I'm gonna move the text on top. So now I have a button with an image behind it and some text on it. Looks pretty nice, I think. Hello world. And then let's say I'm really in love with this button. It's so beautiful. I'm going to copy it just like that. I have another one. And let me move it now by clicking the M tool. And now moving it out of the way. And now we have 2 buttons. So we're going to call it button 2. And now we have 2 buttons. Sweet. And now I'm really happy with it. And I'm all handy dandy. I could save it if I want. Or I can save it to the snippet server and use it for later. Which, pretty handy, right? Today, spoiler alert, we're gonna make this really fun GUI over here. We're gonna hook it up to a skull demo, and we're gonna make it rotate and hook up all these buttons in the next video. But for now, we gotta make this layout first. So let's get right to it. First thing we're gonna do, we're gonna be on responsive mode. Because we want to have a full screen GUI, and we're also going to want to use this in the playground for various screen sizes, mobile, full screen, but I'm just going to keep it on square just for ease. Not a very advanced GUI, so nothing special needed. And yeah, let's get right to it. First thing we're going to do, we're going to create our rectangle object. This is going to be the border we have around the object, and I'm going to set the border for now to black just so I can see it. I'm going to set the size, little handy dandy cheat sheet here, to 400 pixels by 600 pixels. I want it to be a line snapped to the left. And then let me also do a nice border around it. And then we want to make it clean with a little bit of smoothing, kind of ellipse on the edge. Looks kind of nice. All right, next what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put a rectangle inside of it for our background. So I'm going to change it to gray. I'm going to lower the alpha just a tiny bit so I can see it. And now what I'm going to want to do, I'm going to want to parent it inside of the other rectangle. So I'm going to hover it over, look for that white, and boom, nice inside it. Now next we're going to do a control that we haven't seen yet, the grid. Now grids are really important for GUI layouts. They are probably the most used GUI you're going to see, and they're really good for structuring your alignments and things like that. And so we're going to create a grid. And there's a lot of different functionalities. Just like you can do in code, we can do all of that same here in the editor. So there's a couple ways you can want to do it with grid. You can either create your grid and then do your parenting, or do your parenting and then do your grid. Kind of your option. Depends, I think, what you really want to do. For this, I'm actually going to add my rows and then parent it, make it a little easy. So if I want, I add rows right here. I just add 1, 2, 3 rows. So X, Y, Z, and then my color pickers are going to be here. And then I want to change the size of the bottom one to be a little bit bigger than the others. So I'm going to do 50%. And then when I recalculate it, it's going to make it all nice and neat. So it's actually going to add up to 100%. So it's a little bigger. And now we have our other 3, which are evenly distributed. And now I'm going to want to parent that right inside here. Boom. Our basic grid setup. So next we're going to want to create our lines. And we're going to want one side being the text and the other side being the slider. So we're going to want another grid. Except this time we're going to want to add a column right down the middle. And we're going to add our text. And we're going to have our text say rotation X. And right now, we're going to parent it right in our grid, right there. And then we're going to want the most important thing here. We want our slider. So our slider is right down here. We create a slider. Gonna make it look nice and fancy. I like black and white. That's my favorite color combo if I want to make a really clean UI. So I'm gonna make everything black and white looking. Black and white, nice and clean. And then what I want to do for this is going to be a value that we're going to want later. So we want to name it something really, really special. So we're going to do rotation X slider. Now remember this name because we're going to need it later when we want to hook it all up in our playground. And we're going to add it also to our grid. Except, as you can see, it's on this cell. We want it to be on the other cell. So what we have to do is we have to change the grid cell. So the way we do that is we click on our slider in the layers, and we see now a new property grid parenting that's added, and we could change our column value instead of 0 to 1. Boom! Now we have 2, and then we can put this down in our grid. Whoops, slipped a little. Right here. Boom! Now we have rotation X. And now something really awesome I love for this, we can just do Control-C, or we can do copy element. Boom, we have a second one. And we just simply change the Z order, or not Z order, the grid parenting cell, from instead of row 0 to row 1. And we can change the text like so. Rotation Y. And now I can spend time doing the other ones, but I'm just going to skip ahead to doing our color picker. That's a fun control we have at the bottom. So our color picker. And we're going to want in our bottom row, we're going to want another grid. Except this grid is going to be a 2x2 to be with the text. So if we look at our master one, we see it's a 2x2 grid, one slot with the color and one with the text. So let's go here. We have our grid, and we're going to add one column and one row each. We're just going to change our color picker. And we're going to add it inside of our grid. We're going to change it to 80%. Now, it might look a little big at the moment, but that's 80% of the whole thing. But once we add it here, inside of this grid, whoops, we can change the row to be 3. And that's basically how we're going to make this GUI. Really straightforward. Now, I'm not going to go into all the copying and the name changing and cleaning it up, but once we do all that adjusting, we're going to get something like this. Really nice. Let's say I'm done with my GUI. I'm very happy with it. It's really, really nice and spiffy. And so what I can do right now is I can exit out of the selection and then do save to snippet server or save locally. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to save to the snippet server, and boom, there we got our snippet server ID that we're going to be able to use later. So we can copy this snippet ID off, and we can put it right in our playground. So one really cool feature in the playground, if I hit Control Space, it lets me kind of cheat sheet shortcut down to load a full screen GUI from the snippet server. And boom, the 2 lines already added, and I just name it whatever I want. Let's just call it GUI. And then I put in our snippet server ID, and because it's an async function, we're going to want to do a wait. Also make sure that your create scene is also an async function. And boom, already loaded in the playground, 2 lines, done. Look at that. But while it might do all the GUI functionality and animations, nothing's actually happening. So that's because we have to go hook it up. So just like anything that we can hook up in code, we can find this control in our GUI editor texture we made layout-wise, and we can now change any of the properties we want, including adding our observer functions in. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the controls on our texture. So I'm going to go advanced texture dot get control by name. And now it's really important to remember exactly what we called it. So if we go back and look, we called this slider, we called it rotation X slider. So I'm going to remember that name, and I'm going to go rotation X slider. And I'm going to do let slider X be get control by name, rotation X slider. So now we've gotten this control from our advanced dynamic texture. And the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to hook it up to an observer to match it to the skull's rotation. So I'm going to cheat sheet shortcut here and have it already typed up. So slider X on value change observable. And we're adding the function. So if we have the skull, so that's our mesh, we're going to change the value of its rotation, like so. So here we have it. Now it's rotated. Cool. Now if we want, we can now duplicate this over to the X and Y, or to the Y and Z. So we're going to just change the names also. Really, really important, again, gonna really hammer on this, is to remember what you named elements. That's going to be really important for finding them later in your playgrounds or just any project you make. And then boom, we can copy this over. And we're going to change some names to Y and Z. And boom, just like that, we have it working. Look at that. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. But still kind of boring. I think we need a little more something to it. I think we need the color. So let's set up the color right now. So now we're going to remember what we called it. Let's call it matte picker, because it was the matte picker. Get control by name. I think we called it matte color. Let's double check. Yeah, matte color. Now I'm gonna do matte picker dot on value change observable dot add, and just like the last one, we're going to do a function. And what we want to do, we want to set the texture, the matte of our skull material, to be whatever the color value is in here. So for this, we're going to do handy dandy helper. And we're going to do skull material dot diffuse color, copy from value. So the value of the color picker is going to be for the skull material. And now we want to do it for the spec color as well. So let's get a spec color. Find that from our advanced dynamic texture. Spec color. Whoops. Boom, we can copy this name just like that. And we'll change this from the diffuse color, we'll change this to the specular color. And boom, check it out. We got a red skull. And we'll do some blue specular highlights on there. Oh, that looks awesome. Very, very fancy. Very nice. Perfect, spooky. Awesome. And there you have it. Really straightforward how we moved from the GUI editor, and then we're able to load it up into our playground with the parse from snippet server, or you can actually do it from a URL instead if you take it and load it somewhere else and you have a URL you want to use. You can do that as well. And then we found our controls by name inside of the texture, and then we modified values and added some observers on it. And boom, now we have a full working demo from editor to playground, GUI made simple. And I really hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions on the GUI editor, please let me know on the forums, or feel free to write back on this video. Please like and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed, and we look forward to hearing your feedback. And thanks so much, guys. Bye.